Just seeing how long it takes everybody to get in sequence. 1 minute and 10 seconds. One minute and 10 seconds is 1,000 hours in frame. That's 1,000 hours in frames, guys. So it correlates communications, the Earth line, to space line positions of setting tractions. Infinity 8 rotation lines of setting. Propellers and line rotation cycles, or line communicates in system with its flywheel. Okay? Okay. Well, it's getting in positions of balance and travels. Like, so we're coming into a position of 2 minutes, right? Which is what? You say what it is. This has no conversion of anything, but you have to identify no space to understand all space. And how you see space and how you see time. And how you see spaceless of time and how you see space of time itself. So that's what we have to get in positions, but you have to come in all modifications first, where you are in the foundations of nothing. That processes everything that you've already done through observation. So this helps you to identify these things in set tractions. Now I can go from 2 minutes or 2 hours, okay, which is 2 years. I went through two hours, right? 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 years in light years. I say what it is because I'm constantly getting in position is to keep yourself in set tractions, is the foundations of everything. If there's nothing perceived, you're just in the empty space. All right, so if you're in the empty space, you have to understand everything around you that you brought in through attraction is understand how to understand the curvatures of space, how to timelines of space, how to bend space. Okay, so we're going to go through that in line positions. All right, we got in this positions and settings, right? All through configured systems and how you see yourself in your intel, all through different angles of traction. Window frames, track frames, communication frames, the simulation itself, guys, and all set position locations, right? Where you see yourself all through observation, right? You're observing everything you've already done, but you're doing everything all over again in the body. So the body comes out, it just comes in the mind, and that projects everything, and everything around you is the projection itself. So if you understand that, then you truly understand how the sun and the moon is, and what that is in set position. There's no difference when you see the sun like this. Okay, that's semi-track locations. There's the sun, right? Light refraction. Okay, through the sun and through the moon, and set lines a sequence of travel. Okay, and then you teleport here to here in set position. And you're identifying already what the avatar's already done and what the body goes through, its weight, the system, the settings, the travel. Okay? And it's all done through pi. So when you're looking in these positions, you're just the observant. We got in that position, right? You're just the observant that you're looking through now. You're walking into the perimeters of a square. And you're looking everything around you in positions, all levels. Time centers of sequence, timelines of panel, cross lines and set travels, direct lines of grounds of calculation. All right? Here's a tree. Okay? There's a car. Right? So all you're bringing in is the observer itself, is the mind itself. That's living all existing of itself. Present, past, future, it doesn't matter. It's just everywhere all at once, right? It's just the eyes of everything, the eyes and windows of the soul that sees every location through its projection. But you've got to get out of the body completely because it's just the mind itself through imaginations. And then you see everything through projection. You bring things in. You bring the car, you bring the tree, how you want to bring things in your simulation. Okay, that frame. All right, so let's get in position lines of basic line centers and understand how to come into the curvatures of space. Okay, how do you curvature that? Well, it's a line signal locations. Now it gets more complicated now, right? Because you have to stand line dividing, a separation, and equal signs. Okay, So how do I curvature this into an arrow indication to a cycle? 3 centers of pi in clocking calculations, right? How do I do that, right? Well, it's all about understanding how to modify the system lines in center operation, okay? So you understand what pi is in 1/3 setting. And process lines is 6 over lines of indicates lines of 4 lines of setting, or 6 lines of setting, or 3 lines of setting. I say what it is because I'm modifying what it isn't in set position, which is no thinking at all in tractions. Okay, and then you basically have to understand how to use the curvatures of space, right? How do you curvature that? How do you curvature this? Well, you have to understand the empty space of its consciousness first, right? Now, it's all position, location, how you see yourself in tractions. Let's just get in line position of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Let's start with the basics. Okay, how do you curvature space? All right, so space is its foundation, right? Time is its foundation. But space and time is not separated, it's inseparable. It's like I said, in a line position location in systems, anything through setting always goes back to center of operation. Always, 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 always. Right? We already know that in tractions, right? Now, to understand the curvatures of space is to truly understand how to see that in set position to its webbing system, right? Or how to see that in sonar or echo or frame in position to its locations. And how to see that in all ways and different angles of travel. Curvatures of space, right? So you connect to your 12 alignments, your planets, that's like position location of 4 settings of 5 set location. Planet sequence 2, setting 3 over set lines of travel endpoint communication. All right? Process that indication setting to a solar sail. Solar sail. So the curvature of space, okay, is understanding the temperature readings, the barometers and thermometers of the infusion through hot and cold. Now, it's exactly how to basically come into that through the conditioned system. We come into the oxidized settings, the oxidization system, the atmospheres, the hemispheres, the stratospheres, the Brownian spheres, the biospheres, right? Okay, but you do it through a set position of a solar sail. Okay. All right, so you already know in that position, you don't have to know exactly how to get in this position to a boat. Okay, understanding the current of the water in set position, right? Your guidance already is the mind that knows exactly where it's going to go next and travel. So it gets there in set position to pi, which is already done through its equation. All right, so I'm just trying to show you how it goes in that position through its solar sail. Dimensional sail, solar flare, how to see that in line sync communicates setting. All right, so let's start with an L. How does an L shape itself? Well, you look at the point graphs in set positions, 4 setting attractions, all right? Okay, so understand the curvatures of space. Okay, is understand the curvatures of the mind. Okay, in set position. Okay, 3 centers of operation in traction, and you clock your systems and foundations. Okay, powerful stuff, right? You change it this way. Okay, this is all through L. Now I can work with the back formation system of an L, right, which is the front line conditions, or 3 cent line communication lines of an L, right? So understanding this foundation of its clocking or a foundation of its box, you're working from outside in, inside out. Okay, so basically you start with the point graphs, and that position goes this way in tractions, or this way in locations, or this way in set positions, or this calculation setting in traction. Okay, so it's all about understanding how to frame a window, understanding the levels and travel. Okay, understanding the simulation of grounds of its map and system locations. Okay, or everything that is curvage in its own system and travel. Okay, very powerful stuff. Coming in that positions, coming in this positions, coming in that positions. Seating arrangement. And then, you have people sitting, waiting in line in set travel. Okay, so when you're doing that, you have to understand your grounds, your powers, and your atmospheres. Foundations of settings, void, that position. So it's a 3 foundation system, right? That's process of 0, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 3, 3, 2. Question. So you're putting this all together through a frame line and a metric meter of scale. Understanding that through pi, generation lines of 4 lines of sequence and calculation. So you put lines positioned here, 1 over lines of 6, change formation lines of question over a setting, curvature space in, and line screen adaptation to 3 lines of flux. Okay? Or you have 3 line signals, cross lines of timeline center locations. Understanding that positions, added tethers, primers in 3 circuits, and 4 settings and lines of communication lines of travel. Process of indication system. So it's all about understanding the foundation of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, because it knows its own space, it knows its own time, and it lives all existing of its time itself, which is the curvatures of space. Process of here, crossing angles over here and travel. Okay, set positions. Bring it in and set travel communications. Right? So how do you create that in setting? All through all levels into your position. This is where your atoms, electrons, and neutrons, and photons, and protons, and everything in that position comes into it. So it's understanding hot is understanding cold. So what happens when you put H together and cold together? Come to infusion, okay, through space and through time, okay, of center operation of view interactions, right? So you bring 2 atoms together that infuse with each other in a particle setting location, all right? So once you get in that positions, it's really saying how to modify that line. So it's all line communication of temperature readings of barometers, right? In position of hot and cold through depth information system attraction, right? And you really get to see what it is in set positions off this heading, okay? So you brought these things through attraction. So it's all about understanding how you see through a box frame, and then you work inside the frame itself, okay? Outside settings, that's outside the vision location doing system off attractions, right? So you have to send point graphs, 4 centers of scale, okay? And then you have to understand how it's all connected to its laser and travel, okay? And all position location system attractions, locations, right? All right, so once you send the triangulation, puts everything all together in set position to its space and time and measure its scale, circulation and rotation to its cycle, okay? Process the volume, process setting, process communication system all through travel, in lines of particle acceleration system and travel, okay? All through setting, all through operation sequence. It gets very complicated if you don't understand how to modify everything to dimensional solar sail. How an L has a sail. How a T has a sail. Okay? 3 sails. All right, so there's 2 sails, and with centers, lines is set position of a D. A solar sail. A dimensional sail. Okay? An H screen adaptation lines a high position of sail. All right? So understanding the dimension of sail is understanding the position of space and time through its curvature. Your Earth is basically understand how you want to see yourself into anything in position of hot and cold. Put that together, that's infusion. Okay? Put that together in settings. It's all levels of travel and set travels in that communication system that puts everything in processing lines into your pyramids and travel communications. Your pyramid. Ground centers 45 line angles. Foundation cross line angle communication with cycle. Sets core centers, timeline sequence, process in position location to its high centers, rotated system, location system, and track communication. Okay? See it on all different angles and set calculation. All right? So it's all in your mind. Everything's done through your mind. So you want to curvature space. How do you want to curvature space? So you want to do this, right? And then you want to do this, right? All right, so you're curvature space from this angle, from this angle, from this angle in set position, right? But you have to stand the clocking foundation of center. Understanding the grounds, and then coming in set position with systems all through center operation of direct and redirect in set position, all right? And then you go through pivotal points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of scale, right? And then you open up the panels of communication setting to its clocking system. all through traction. Now, in that direct signals, you can modify the high centers of grounds and lines of direct and redirect and center operation lines of sequence that process communication system of the calculation. All right. So you do it on a 4-line communication system all through traction. So I'm just showing you just the basic grounds, how you understand the conditions to your inventories, how H becomes an H, of curvatures of space, 2 centers of sequence, 4 lines of grounds to set position to its operation. Operation line sequence, okay, half pipe, right? So you're curvating the space, right? The actual space itself. The space itself is the void itself, okay? But that doesn't come in until you understand the inner self, which is you, which is existing all levels of you, the observation of you. Because the observation of you is the mind of imagination, okay? Where there is no space and there is no time until you perceive consciousness. And when you bring consciousness in, everything comes in curvature. Through space and through time, through metric and meters and scales, or anything in that setting. So whatever you're saying, you're changing things. You're changing your mutations of you, you're changing your time measures of you, you're changing your clocking systems of you, right? But you're not changing the maps of you. You're adding equations of the map of you. So you have a simulation here, okay? There's one there, right? So all you're doing is you're creating a new set position to its settings, right? Merging into a new highway, okay? Merging into a new highway, right? Setting new division locations and set tractions, right? All through dimensions, all through settings, all through operation. All right, so what you do is you keep this, which is its computer, its archive, that processes everything you already know in its memory bank and set position to its window frames and that positional case and calculations, right? You keep that in file of operation, its memory, right? But you have to understand once you come in that position, you're separating everything, but you're tethered and attached to its mind through telepathy. So getting out of the body, process everything in that position, and then you also bring yourself through observation. All through time, all the same positions, you through the observer. Okay? So it's really easy to identify these things through temperature readings. All right, so let's clock this system half pipe. Okay? All right, so 1/3 grounds. It gets more complicated because you have to add measure and scale of your clocking systems, how you want to get in curvatures of space, how you want to process that. This is just an indication system, right? The point lines as graphs all can make you sitting and coming together in traction, right? And you do it this way in set positions, all through pyramids and set travel, okay? So it's understanding the clocking system here, clocking system here, clocking system here, right? Or anything in here, or anything here in traction, all right? So curvatures of space is all through your mind and imagination. It's very simple. It's not complicated, guys. Pyramid activation, curvatures of setting, process lines of half pipe, process lines of 1/3, 1 track centers, 1 direction, 1 locations, 1 platform, 1 setting, 1 operation sequence. Okay, platform in set position. Look at this, boom. Wild, eh? It's pretty easy to understand this, right? But it's the curvatures, all right? Understanding how to bend space is how to bend time. So like you have an arrow identification system all through tractions, all through locations. But I just want you to identify how to see that in information. Okay? Your imagination is everything. Okay? You can time clock anything in that positions, but you truly understand how to get into the string theory. You know exactly how you come in a planetary alignment here to another planet here in set positions, right? So it's bending the waves of signature lines of patterns of space. Okay? Then you go in here, another planet, and set positions, all right? Then you come into your solar system, bending space of time, okay? And it's all done through your particle acceleration system and traction locations to your thermal networks, your networks itself through box frames and window frames and travel. So you're constantly changing your systems off the calculations, okay? It's very easy to do these things, right? So all you're seeing is the foundation that's already having through lines of communications you see through all levels of structure. Okay, as I see the copy cup, I see the curvatures of space. And sending 3 signals in location system and setting. Curvatures of space, right? Curvatures of space. Okay, curvatures of space. Okay, so you're already set up in the mapping system, but now you have to understand how to see it through its primer and its primer and set travel. So we have 3 centers, 4 set calculations, right? Okay, so we clock over here and set lines of travel and direct lines of link. Okay, so it's just getting that communication of its ruler. You got your ruler here, you got your ruler here, you got your ruler here, and you got your ruler here. Okay, so you're working within that frame. From here, longitude, latitude. How much are you using in longitude, latitude? How much are you using in streaming? Right? And, you know, when you want to bring the curvature in, well, you have to understand the half pipe. You have to understand the full cycle of clocking, right? So space is the connection of the eye that changes the spectrum and some positions a level. So as you're using hot, you're using cold at the same time, a measure of scale of yin and yang. Process communications come together and set track lines in position of flux over steady circulation rotation. So you have to understand that you already see it in foundation. You just have to understand how it comes into its corners in a set position, right? From this indications. And remember, space is all lines, position to its mind itself through its imagination. So you have to understand the curvature from direct and redirect. Okay, from here. Okay, that's just a guideline, right? And from here, and here, and here, and here. Okay, and you change the angle. Okay, so you can add A tracks, B centers. Now this is where you come into more imagination. You can add letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, anything graph, right? B center lines of E factors over 2 lines of signal, 3 lines of grounds, high lines of setting, upper line sequence, panel operation screen, rotation system, and traction. Okay? Very powerful when you see it all through simulation. Okay? So how we have to start identifying is everything of a box, okay, and set lines of setting, a window, right? So understand the curvage is to break it up like that, okay? Or to break it up like this, okay? Or to break it up like this. That indicates settings, all right? Or break it up like this, outside in, inside out, and set traction. Okay? So now you have the curvage, and then you can do anything you want in that positions, but you have to stand the foundations first, right? Come in that position location, it's just outer space, outer space, outer space, inner space. Inner space, outer space, outer space, inner space, outer lines, inline, outline sequence, outline travel, outline direction, outline communications, outline traction. Right, so you're just trying to understand how to bend space of you and travel. And you do it through a box, or you do it through triangulations of 3 setting communications. All right, setting 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 12. 0 operation, clocking lines of 0. Okay. Then you're going to go this again, bend space on different angles. Okay. So all you're doing is you're adding your set positions of what you're setting up, right? And your seconds, minutes, and hours in frame. Okay. So get into all those of M, right? Process here, process here, process here, process here. Right. So when you do that, you're doing this. You're breaking it up. Okay. That's what you're doing. You have to come into this first to understand how that comes into position. All right. So once you come into that, then you get a true understanding how to come into a line signal. Once you come into line signal, then you go in position at D platform and set traction. Right. So bending curvatures of space is understanding the position of its clocking system of 4 settings. 4 settings. 4 settings. 4 settings. Okay. That's on a clock. That's on a watch. Analog, digital, it doesn't matter, right? So you come in that positions, you go from here, start with that, right? And then you go from here, start with that. You're just structuring it, right? And you go from here, crossing over your line signal in case to a setting, right there, right? You come in this positions, right here in traction, right? So anything you see through that, then you see all levels of what you're doing through question. Okay. And then you basically get in line signals. So you basically come into space, and then you come into the solid of space. Okay, and the modifications of space, and the overriding sequence of space, right? So you come in line signals, line signatures, line patterns, and set positions, right? But you have to understand how to come into point graphs first and travel, okay? So, but it's very powerful how you come in that position, location, systems, all through transitions, okay? All through setting, all through communication. Okay, and the more you understand that, then you come into the signatures of waves, waves of this, okay, waves of this, over cross line and settings, okay, waves like this, right? So it's understanding how to point the graphs, right? And you break up the signatures. Okay, so let's start with 1, okay, 1, 2, 3, okay? Solid matter, breaking up space. When you're breaking up space, you have to codify it in a signature line, okay, and set position of what you want to do and how you want to bring it together, right? As it brings it together, you connect the dots, you connect the lines. So you're breaking up space piece by piece. That's bringing its curvature of space and time, okay? All right, so once you get into that, then you come into long gated, high gated, and the screen adaptation. Okay, you come into solid, it's structured design. Okay, so you start off with that, okay, and then you put it together. Okay, so it's much easier to see that because you're breaking things down, how you want to see space, how you want to see time, how you want to bend space, how you want to bend time. Right? So it's very important you understand that because it identifies you through all levels of question. And that position, location, system, all through traction. Okay? So empty space itself, okay? This is the empty space. That's empty space. Empty space, empty space, empty space, empty space, empty space. Right? But understand the curvature of this space is understanding how to point the graphs. All right, so let's get a plot number 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So I want to signature lines of 1, signature lines over cross lines of 2, and cross lines of 3 rotation settings of traction. So that's calculation system, all through setting, your Schumann resonance in box frame. Alpha, delta, theta, all through saw line, right? And screen adaptation, inside travel, through the simulation of its mapping system. Okay? So if we get a true understanding of how this all works, it's much easier to break things down in a clocking system. Okay? Because you already know how to do this. It's not complicated, but you have to understand before you come into this, okay, 4 signatures of lines. Then once you get in that position, you have to start off with this. Okay, the next level, which is more complicated now because you're bending space. Okay, start with that, start with that. Then you come into this, the next wave, to a box frame. Okay, it's all the same thing, just different patterns of space and time, different frequencies, grounds, okay, ground levels, ground surface. Okay, different frequencies, but they all work together as one. All right. So that's what you guys have to start identifying. It's like understanding how to use a ruler. Okay, ruler, box, 4 centers of signatures, right? So you want to understand pi, you go through this first, right? And then you come into that. And then you go into this. Okay, and then you go into overriding this. Okay? So it's all signature lines, guys, and it's all on your mind lines, okay? It's already set in positions. Mind sequence lines of grounds. Let's get in position lines of high position levels. Solid matter lines of 5. Okay, equal lines bending space of 5. Okay, and set transitions. All through setting, all through operation. Okay? And then you can break it up, bring it into solid. or you can break it up, bring it into waves, or you can break it up and bring it into circulation and a rotation cycle. Okay, and set position location system to your pyramid activation. So once you get into that, you get into your thermometers and barometers, and you get into your temperature readings too, because you look at the earth line is 98,000, right? Time, center, location, 1,000 lines, 98,000 line communication, which is its temperature reading to its earth, right? Which is all levels. So the more you use your mind imagination, the more you see the curvages of space. Now, changing that formation system, okay, is to understand how to see it through its highway. So this is your highway right here, right? So all you're doing, you're merging in, okay? You're not changing everything in some position. All you're doing is you're merging in to a new highway and splitting it through an anomaly. That's all you're doing, right? And you create it through its system, okay? But this stays in your settings, right? But you're no longer attached and tethered to its emotional system of everyone else. So that separates you to your new division location setting, adapting all levels of the mind itself and track core centers of 3 communication system all through travel. Okay? So you're not separate in your mind. You just hide formations of the mind through telepathy. Right? So you understand the grounds of this. Okay? You understand the highways of this and what you've already done in set position location. Right? So now you're just doing this, doing your own highways of set position. Right? Doing your own highway of set position. So all this lines here is in its storage facility. It stays there in tractions, but you're not tethered and attached, okay, to anybody in sequence. Okay, you're not tethered and attached. Okay, you're on your own set position location of travel. Okay, so once you understand that, then you come into solid matter. Once you understand that, then you come into your waves. Once you understand that, then you come to your operation. So you create your new highways, okay, to ground lines in circulation, rotation, and travel. Okay, but now you're just in all levels of the mind that projects everything in set position to a simulation of its game and track communications. Okay, you see all levels of you, what you're doing is set travel. You can see all levels of you, the existence of you. So, signature lines, correlation lines, track interference, right? And then you start to understand, wow, I understand the foundations, how I did that through curvage. So I got 3 arrows of indication settings, setting location to a system all through tractions. You can do it that way, or you can do it this way. Okay. So just pointing graphs, knowing exactly how to set this up, you know, putting yourself in separation, but connected to everything of nothing that processes everything in your mind, imaginations, through that system of telepathy, right? So this is how it works. You're this, but you're this to your system now. That's what it is, right? All right. So you're connected to everything, which you already created. That doesn't change anything with alterations, but all you're doing is basically creating a levels, okay, of space, the curvatures of you of highways, right? And your primers and travel, right? Setting this way in set position. So now you're no longer tethered and attached to its system in travel. Okay? So you're connected in all formation system, all setting, all through operation in the mind now. Okay, just the mind itself. Not tethered, not attached. You're in your own highway in position of the mind, okay, through its conception of a mind of inception and setting. Okay, and you just keep expanding, expanding, expanding. So you're more connected to the mind now that processes everything through projection, through its telepathy, right? But what you already have stays in alterations. Now you can go in that position, but you have to understand it's already set up, which you don't change anything. So you have to shift down to the center of operation, direct its state location setting to a solar sail, sets communication lines and high position lines of travel in that communication system if you want to collapse timelines and travel. So when you collapse the timeline, you got to be careful now because that's already done, right? So once you understand that, then you understand the particle accelerations of space and time. and travel communications. Direct lines and links processes communicates the system as seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay? Traveling that positions, you go back in time in 3 centers of 4 lines of communication. All right? But this, you're just expanding yourself through the mind, through telepathy. So you're no longer tethered and attached. It's just you and the mind itself that projects everything of the body. Okay? Okay, so this stays in storage, but you can go back in that position and basically get into the position and change timelines. Breaking down timelines is breaking the particles of space and time. All right? So it's like you have an atom and you split it. Okay, that's the curvatures of space, right? Then you're separating it in 3 centers. Okay, so you get out of this, and this is what it is, into the mind is itself, its imagination, through its intelligence that you are, right? Look at this. Everything around the circle disappears. Okay, so it's just you now, not tethered and attached to anything through energy, vibration, frequencies, or harmonics. It's just you, okay, into your levels. How do you come into the curvatures of space, of no time, that position, location, settings, all volumes you, and set traction existing and evolving yourself through expanding. There you go, just you. But you're more connected to the mind now through telepathy, everybody else, right? So all you're doing is just adding highways in all different levels and set positions, all through tractions, all through clocking, all through foundation, all at once. That's a lot of highways in set position. Okay? Now you add a new primer, 3 centers of travel, 3 grounds of service, okay? And then you come in your foundations, okay, through your systems and your grids, okay? So you can do whatever you want. So it's just you, with you, right? All formations of your pyramids is attraction, okay? And then you come into your highways, set position. All right? It's very powerful stuff, right? So you're no longer this. It's just you, okay? So the more you set free, the more you understand how to come into the mind of empty space, of everything you get in positions of, right? So you come into that positions, you understand this, you understand this. There's always ways of looking at curvatures of space. You understand this, okay? Then you come into this. Everything disappears. No motion attached to anything through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols because you created a highway through curvatures of space and time. See? It all disappears in front of you. Right? So you're not emotionally attached now to anybody else, just through the mind, through telepathy. Okay? I'm just showing you on so many levels how you see this through calculations. Okay? It's still there, right? But it's in this foundation of nothing. Boom. But it's still there. But it's not tethered attached to anything. So you're just levels of the mind now. Now you're just projecting everything on this simulation of the game of the body. Okay? It's amazing, isn't it? So you're just focusing on yourself, all volumes of yourself. How to time sequence this, how to time edit that. Time editing will get in position, location, setting, attractions, and directions. It's understanding how to time edit lines of setting. It's all those how you use your imagination and what you want to do in set positions because you see it through the cosmos and its connection system, right? Start in that position is truly understand your body through its capacitor. This is where it gets interesting. All right. You got 3 forks, right? And set position locations. All right, and that indicates settings and center line communication settings of 4 lines of signal and set position locations and attractions. Okay, and then you get your position lines as centers. Let's get position locations here, and that position location line connection setting and travel 13 grounds calculate and modify, and set positions here, set calculations here, and set positions here, set positions here, and set positions, all through tractions, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's the hand, right? This is the constellation lines of the body capacitor, volume, right? The wire signatures is your intelligence. This is your hand inside. Okay? But your finger points are here outside the settings. Okay? It's outside the frame of the body. All right? And what you have to understand, the position of lights over lines of its pinky and position of processing communication system of its thumb. All right? Indicates the settings all through traction. Okay, it's very powerful stuff, guys. That's just through the hand. Okay, so this center operation of you is the intelligence that lives outside of everything in set position operation of cycle. Okay, now for you to understand that is for you to understand your foundations, right? And how you modify these things. Very powerful in set tractions, guys. Okay, different lines of finger points, different lines of space, different lines of time, right? But the position location is your settings. Okay, which is actually your fingers outside communication. So your connection setting, the actual intel is outside of everything. It lives the outer spectrum of everything. Okay, it doesn't live inside. The inside is used through body capacitor. That's your light metaphor. So if you understand that, then you understand everything outside, okay, projects everything inside that you are. But you understand what inside is and outside is. Inside, outside, outside, inside. So once you understand that, then you understand everything in a box frame of communication system or through traction. Right? How you see the actual set position of its intelligence. The set position to its calculations. Its fingers. Okay? I just wanted to show you that, guys. And now it's not here. Disappeared. It's not there. It's gone. Where did it go? It disappeared. See? Disappeared. It's not there. It's nowhere in sight. It's gone. Disappeared. Not there anymore. It's very hard to visualize sequence and screen adaptations. All right, so I'm just getting you guys to truly understand what your intel is. It's just the mind itself that creates everything of imagination, that brings everything in the body projection. And the more you get understanding how to get into the curvatures of space, it's all through all levels of you through creation of creating. Curvatures of setting, position laws of formula equation. Okay. But you have to understand letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols of its own foundation system that puts everything in locations to balance its settings. Because everything around you is already in its empty space of its own curvature. Because it doesn't need to understand its foundations. You have to understand the foundation because you brought it in through attraction through your avatar. How to create it through a cup, that's curvature of the space. Look, it's true to understand how you see these things, right? Center course centers a clock in setting. Okay, 2 panels of operation. Body sequence is set traction, right? Curvatures of space, half pipe. Curvatures of space, 3 settings. There's the cup. Now, when you're looking inside, it's empty. You're here to fill up yourself in set tractions, in set position. Okay? And then you start to see the rim of how much coffee you have inside. Okay? So all this is curvature of its space itself. Okay? But now we have to understand how to use it through formula and equation. And that liquefies everything in set position because the core itself is the liquefaction system to its all setting of its solid. Right? You have to be liquefied, but there's 2 panels of solid matter. Okay? But everything around you is just empty space in set position. Right? Empty, 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 empty. Okay? You're always in the center that never leaves the center. That's you, the eye itself, right? So all you're doing is you're projecting things, bringing out the projections of its game. Okay, so now you're identifying what the body is in set position, right? So you're bringing things out through spectrum, through light and set traction. Okay, look at that. 3 vessels of communication, right? But I don't leave the center, right? So now I come into observation, coming out of the center now. Okay, coming out of the center and seeing everything what I've done. Now, if I like it, I move on. Let me check over here. Let's see where I can change something, all right? Now, when I want to bring myself in, this is just me in the present of everything. If I want to bring myself in projection, I have to understand the foundations, the curvatures of space, how to come into the outer structure, understand the inner structure of you, how to create the outer shell, how to create the inner structure of you, right? And it's all lines of how to put things together through the atoms, the molecules, the molecular structures, the protons, electrons, and neutrons, and photons. All you're doing is you're merging everything into one. Okay? Now, when you do that, everything defies everything in the mind itself that brings everything in projections. Okay, so once that comes in, now I can bring the simulation of the game. Okay? So I'm the observer, and I bring in this, and this, and this. All right, so I'm bringing in my projections of myself inside the game. Bringing it here, walking over here, somebody's over here, and somebody's over here in charges. I'm bringing that all through the mind at the top, right? It's 3 signature lines and settings. And so all you have to understand, guys, how this all works in frame of communication, how to understand the curvatures of space through its modification system, all through traction, all through travel, all through graph of communication. It's not complicated because it's already identified what you already know. Okay? It's knowing how to change formations and settings, how to create it through its anomaly and online center locations, how to understand the platforms of position location of travel. Okay? How to understand the platforms of circulation and rotation lines of travel. Understand the box frames of communication lines, of window lines, communication lines of travel. Okay, and bring it in instead of travel. Look at this. Okay. See, and then you bring this, and then you see more bandwidth, more longitude, more streaming, right? Now you can work out because you're bringing yourself more in position, all right, to its operation. And again, you can bring it in again and see what you like in set position, right? And then again, you bring yourself in observation, saying, this looks good, right? Now I'm just bringing the versions of me in the simulation because it's all in the mind. The mind itself is the intel that's everywhere all at once, but doesn't exist until it projects the body. Okay, so I'm just trying to make that very well clear for everybody so you don't get confused where you are in set position to your systems. Now I'm on the simulation game, but that's me in the present of everything. And my intel is here in set position inside. Okay, because you have to understand the timeline and settings and locations. Okay, it's the intel, right? Okay, so you're working with that, right? Because I have to be very careful of where I am in time. You have to be very careful where you are in time, right? And how you project that through your mind is understanding the curvatures of space. How to create it through a vessel. Understanding the temperature reading, understanding the barometer, understanding the thermometer, understanding the infusion. Really, really understand your particle streaming. Understand how to use your atoms, your molecules, your protons, your electrons, your neutrons. Create a story around it. That alone is curvatures of space in set position. Okay? Okay, so I want to understand how to curvage set position of 14 setting to travel. Right? Again, you start with this. Okay, so that's what I want to do as a platform of a location grid. Okay? So, and again, you go around, start with that position. That's just the guidance, right? And then once you understand that, you put it all together. Okay, you're locking your systems, you're going through your seconds, minutes, and hours, all through 0, 1, all the way to 0, 12, right? And then you go around again, and you go around again, and you go around again, direct and redirect, process U of the center operation, right? Look what you created in a platform of curvatures of space, and all through setting through operation sequence. That's all it is. You know, it's not complicated. Just knowing exactly how to put your set position to your highways. You know exactly what you're doing in your frames of alteration, all through settings. Okay, all through travel, all through travel. Okay. That's why you have to send a formula equations. So if an F stands still, okay, its signature lines of 1, 2, 3, and 4 set position. Now I have to go here, 1, 2, okay, because I'm changing space now. I'm curving space at a different angle. So I want 3 centers lines of position. All right, so that's 0 lines of 0, set position of 0, 1, and 3 lines of setting of 0, 2 interactions. Okay, now understanding that is all through set travel. Okay, and then you change it again, all set through travel. All right, so once you get in that positions, that changes everything in set positions. Let's go back interactions, right, through its foundations. All right, okay, so we have 4 signature lines of grounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 signature lines of grounds. And basically, we're going to go set position location, setting attractions and position locations into 1, 2, position lines of 3, and set travels. Process and medication lines into 4, 5, and 6. There's the 4. Okay, but I'm curvature in space now. So when you curve in space, you have to understand time of space. Right, each point line is a graph. Set position of past, and this we come to 3 fingers lines of grounds, present, and position locations of past. Past, present, future, past, present, doesn't matter. What you have to start is indicating your system through partner lines, of course, centers, a clocking system all through tractions. Okay, know exactly you're doing it this way, doing it that way, going here, going there, going this way, going that way, sending the position of the graph of communication all through travel. So it's putting line signature to your system itself through calculation system to its mapping system through pi, through indications, right? So whatever you do, there's no right or wrong. You're just reaching those levels right now where you have to start pointing graphs, is knowing how to get into bending space, okay, bending time. But you're creating a story in a mapping system location to your mountain or your pyramid or your box frame or your formation grounds or your circulation or your rotation, right? So it's a constant continuous flow that you keep doing interactions, right? But it's amazing what you can do with formation line centers just from F itself, you know? So curvature of the space is understanding point graphs all through this. All through this. Okay. And then you put it together. Put it together, put it together, put it together. And when you put it together, then it gets much easier to do it this way and do it this way at the same time. Right? So once you start off that, then you work from inside and outside in set position. Work from inside and outside in set position, right? Work from inside, outside in set tractions. All through pi. All through pi. Setting communications, eye traction locations. Inside the eye. Process of setting, process lines of sequence, set communication system and travel, 3 grounds of setting, 3 surface locations. Okay? All through mapping system. Okay? So that's basically how you come into the curvatures of space and time. Is understand the part of acceleration and know exactly what you're doing in set positions. Your imagination is everything through core. You just have to understand how you see the one like this. That's curvature of the space of 2 operations and 3 sequence. Process indicates in setting. Indicates in setting 3 travels. 1 center, 2 positions, 0 gravity. 0 gravity is 0, 1. Set position of 4 gravity. 4 gravity lines of no gravity and 0 correlation system all through contraction. Okay. Line signals cross over lines, directing 4 lines that communicate setting 4 box frames to set position. Okay. Triangulation relines, process lines indicates setting to your pyramids of travel. Set grounds of 45 flux, cross angles and travel communication setting and processing. Directing ground centers as a calculation system through floor mats and travel communications. Directing ground centers height lines of sequence, planetary alignments, and particle acceleration system and travel. Right? Setting line position location system, bending space, 3 lines of signal location setting a half pipe. Now I'm just in observation. If I add the intent, everything changes. You see everything in your phone change, you see everything in your TV change, you see everything in the curvature of space all at once. All at once, guys. Your seconds, minutes, and hours is constantly understand how to change the divots and davits of transition of transaction. All right? This is all your equal sign. This is what it really is. Your equal sign is just transition of divots, information bits, coming from your cells, your atoms, and molecules. That's all it is, nothing else suppositions. Start with apostures locations. Divots go up, now that's capillaries. It's that communication. It's not this, it's this. Okay, there it is, instructions, okay? Now, understanding space is understanding negative of everything in space, which is its void itself, truth and false narratives. Process the indication setting, okay, blue line signal, blue line surface, blue line traction. Okay, bring it in, planetary alignments. There's your planets, there's your alignments. Okay? Signature lines of box frames and travel in set position. Okay? Correlate the time centers, line communication setting, bending space and line signals of 2 travels and indication. So everything I say is just an observation, but be very careful what you do through intention, location to its cycle. All formation setting of configuration of face recognition. Okay? So it's very powerful how you identify this in travel. Okay? Bring in the transistors, resistors, over a sequence, over a screen. Okay? Light switching screen centers, and over a cross location of screen. In set position. Okay? So it's just more levels of you, how to identify your space and how to identify your time and what you want to do. And all formation system, all through traction. Okay? You can work on anything in line send locations to bring anything in curvature of space, right? But stay in observation until you understand the curvatures of you. What is your foundation? What is your width? What is your length? What is your streaming? What are your coordinates? How much bandwidth do you have, right? How much streaming do you have? How much linking? How much network? How much highway do you have? You have to modify that in that position with systems, all through box frame. Okay, that's all levels and subpositions. Travel. Okay, so there's no amount of width because it's all line positions all at once in setting, because it exists in all frames of communication. Okay, and set travel all through box frame. Okay, but that's what it is. That's the equal sign. These are solid lines. You got to let that go. It's this now you come into the transits and the divots and the capillaries, right? Each line has a planet setting. There's a planet right there. 2 planets in sequence, right? But you bring it in here, it doesn't look like planets, does it? So it's on a data sheet. All right, understanding that is understanding the information bits where it comes in location setting travel. Okay, it's all done through a map and system interactions, location and cycle. All right, all through setting, all through operation. Okay, so once you understand that, then you understand the position of solid matter and then positions. All right, 2 panels. Let's put that inside. Do set calculations, right? Solid matter, okay? Everything else, empty, empty, empty space, okay? So you're working with the particle accelerations now inside you. Understanding that through conception is understanding the curvatures of space. Modifications of space, clockings of space, foundations of space, transitions, transactions, divots over lines, information bits, set of position lines of travel, indirect lines of lane, high course sends, communication system, the configuration. Okay? That's your body forming into its travel. And when it forms into its travel, all the configuration setting, the zeros and ones, comes into that position of balance. That comes into time zones. The set lines of sequence, sets communication system, all through setting. So they go out through equation, all through setting. Right? And then they come back and set positions, all through operation and configuration. Direct and redirect information system. There's your face and recognition. Okay, back information, right? So it's understanding direct and redirect is its own curvatures of its own space, right? It's going from this and going from that. So going from that, but you have to identify this first, is break up the lines, right? Each has a particle lines of time, past, present, and its future. Okay, equals question. Okay, so once you stand this, then you stand this, then you stand that, and then you come into this. Okay, but you understand this to this to this to that. Okay. Now, once you come in the central setting, you understand how to position the set lines. Separation here, 4 signature lines, set position of line signal, coming into the waves in set position, right? All levels at different levels of position lines of centers, right? Then you come into this, signature lines of voice line of communication and setting. Okay, all together in one position of one operation, all at once. Okay, starting out with this, and that. Okay, so what you're doing is your thoughts are coming out of the curvatures of space of everything. Your actions are leaving the system and coming to all levels of the mind, imagination, through telepathy. And your emotions are detaching and attaching from everything, just in the telepathy itself. Okay? Starting off with this and coming into this. Okay? See how that works? Okay. So it doesn't matter how you see shapes, doesn't matter how you see letters, numbers, or symbols. You have to get out of emotion of everything, of L. Right? And once you understand that, you separate the L, you change the curvatures of space, and set position lines of travels and direct lines of line, connection system, all through calculation. All through platform. Right? So everybody get a little bit more understanding how this all works now. Right? You're separated and you're detached, but you're connected to everything. Right? This modifies everything, occasion as space modulation that processes communications, not just through modification setting, but understanding it through space modulation. So it's very powerful when you understand the curvatures of space. Okay, the curvatures of space, the curvatures of space, and the curvatures of space. Okay? That's what is interactions. All right? All right. See you guys in 5.